Good afternoon. I'm Mark Miller from Health and Wellness, and I'm sitting here with Darrin Lenton. He is the man behind Neural Advantage, and we're going to have a bit of a high-level macro discussion on what has allowed him to have successes where other practitioners and people haven't. Darrin.
So I've got a background in a lot of techniques, both manual, well, I guess they're all delivered manually, but very neurocentric techniques. While applying those techniques to folks, I noticed that I had this kind of a sensitivity. When I asked around other providers, it started to become apparent that it was a kind of a unique sensitivity of feeling things that other people don't. So while helping people using the techniques that I was taught in class, I began to explore what these sensitivities were, what they meant, and started to discover that I could do some pretty unique things with them. Right. So understanding that I divide problems more often than not into two different categories. We've got hardware issues, which would be things, structural anomalies, scar tissue, adhesions, nerve entrapments, bone spurs, cysts, things like this, naturally occurring things inside of the body that have grown in an amount and in a location that's not advantageous, normally very painful, and they normally have neural implications due to the distortion they create in the body. Right, so those are hardware issues, and they can be eliminated. For example, for shorthand in communication with folks, we talk about scar tissue that's creating an adhesion or a big mass inside of the body, or a nerve entrapment. If shorthand, we use the term melt scar tissue. It kind of makes me cringe a little bit, but it's shorthand, energetically making available these structural anomalies, the scar tissue, the burning arthritis out of joints. We're making these structural things available for that person's system to eliminate through lymph. So we wind up I don't eliminate the scar tissue, that person does. I make it available for their system to remove, and over time, it's a process, making available that stuff for them to process out, giving them some time to process it out, and then continuing until the problem is either all the way to completion, or until that person decides that it's good enough for them, and we move on to the other aspects. Simultaneously, we can be dealing with software issues. So we've got hardware issues and software issues. Software is like neural signaling. How are there glitches in the neural communication network? Those can be resolved as well. There are techniques out there that can be taught on how to trace. You introduce specific stimuli to the system, to the person's body, and you interpret the results, and you work your way through this hierarchical fractal arrangement of compensation, which sounds really crazy, but kind of is. Provide the correct stimulus, resolve the problem. The neural signaling, the glitches that were in the system are no longer present, and therefore the problems that it was causing are vanish instantly. It's not a process; it's an event at that point, right? So that would be a software issue. Emotions, memories, internal representations, limiting beliefs, limiting decisions, the targets of neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy, those types of things. Those are all software type issues. So if we can divide a problem up into hardware issues and software issues and eliminate them all, eventually you don't have a problem anymore. So what we're doing here is not protocol based. Go to page 47 and apply this protocol if you see this symptom. That's not it at all. We're breaking the problems up into their individual components and eliminating them, and eventually you don't have a problem anymore. I say eventually because chances are by the time I see somebody, so much water's gone under the bridge that a simple signaling error or a simple software issue has probably caused a hardware issue as well. And then we get this snowball effect where one dysfunction creates another and creates another. That's typically when I get introduced into the situation. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. You know, my hope for this video is kind of off the cuff. It's obviously unscripted. What I want to do is invite people into a discussion, into a conversation about what's going on here, kind of sharing my perspective so that people can begin to formulate, begin to create some specific questions, not just like, well, how does this work? That's way too, the answer to that question is so disproportionately large compared to the question, it's just not fair. So I want to invite people to start getting their head wrapped around this unfamiliar perspective. And the only reason that the situation is unfamiliar is because it's unique. It's these sensitivities that I've mentioned before are the reason, in my opinion, the way it appears now to me. And again, at any moment in the presence of better information, I'm more than willing to change my opinion or perspective on things. I'm just sharing what my opinions and perspectives are right now. But the reason that I'm getting the success where others have not is due to these sensitivities, these God-given energetic sensitivities that I've learned to use in order to take those things that those techniques, those modalities that I was taught to the next level. I've built upon piles and piles of brilliant revelations and techniques, and then tweaked them and changed the way that these ideas that I was taught, kind of sounds conceited, but for the sake of shorthand, taken them kind of to the next level. I've changed them, and we're getting better results doing it this way than the way I was taught.
Thank you.